I was known collectively as one of the Cardiff newsagent 3. With my 2 co-accused, we were wrongly convicted of the murder of a Cardiff newsagent. The evidence basically consisted of a co-accused who admitted that he had done the crime after 14 police interviews, and then said that we did it with him, which was untrue. There was a number of witnesses who were in serious trouble with the police at the particular time, who were known criminals, and they had something to gain by giving false evidence against us, which is what they did. And the significant piece of evidence, as far as the prosecution was concerned, was an overheard cell confession outside the cells. Now, that confession allegedly took place while me and my co-accused Ellis Sherwood was in the cell, and he reckons he wrote it down on a notepaper, and basically it said that we admitted to the crime. Now, unbeknown to us at that time, this officer had a history of doing such things, but I can remember going for trial, and the trial started on the 20th of June, 1987. No, 88, sorry, and we got convicted 3 weeks later after hearing the evidence of these convicts who gave false evidence against us. So we were sent to a top security prison in the country, where we were all given life sentences, and then I started going down the slippery road of not knowing what to do, not knowing how to fight back. And then I met other innocent people inside who were saying they were innocent, who inspired me to fight back. And then I started educating myself. And what I did, I went into prison with no exams. I had nothing at all, no education, nothing at all. And I ended up taking exams, maths, English, studying the law. And then I started to fight my case, and then the fight back began. So I wrote to journalists, and journalists played a significant part in my release. There was a documentary made which helped to free us, but just before the documentary went out, we had news that a new independent body was being set up to look at miscarriages of justice cases, and I was assured by my MP that my case would be one of the few which would be referred to this body. Now, after 2 years of investigation, they had an outside police force came in and said there was a number of breaches of what they call the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, where we were treated quite badly. And to give you an example, we were handcuffed to hot radiators for long periods of time. We denied access to our lawyers, denied food and water, and these were our basic human rights, yet they were denied to us. In total, there was 115 breaches of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, and whilst you can accept 1 or 2 might have been a mistake, how can you say 115 is a mistake? But that's exactly what occurred. This is what an outside police force said, and it was on that basis that our case was referred back to the Court of Appeal. They also uncovered that this police officer who made a confession up outside the cells had done it in numerous other cases as well as my own, and he'd been disbelieved by a number of juries. Now, had my trial jury knew all about this police officer, and the fact that my co-accusers confessed to something he hadn't done before, which the police were aware of and didn't disclose it to our defence, then we wouldn't have been convicted. It's as simple as that. There was never no forensic evidence linking us to the crime. They were aware of that. They were looking for one person, and that one person turned into 3 people, magically out of thin air. So, the poster they had was of a person 6 foot tall, 15 stone build. Now, on my medical records, it had me down as being 5'6" and only 6 stone 6. So a bit different from the person they were looking for in the description. And we later found out then that the main prosecutor witness who said they saw one person, the police went round to her house and said she might have been mistaken about the person she saw that night because we didn't fit the description which she gave. When I got released, which was in 1998, I was released on bail, very, very unusual, because we were still convicted killers at that time. But the evidence was so strong, they had to let us out. It was that strong against the system that we didn't do the crime. So from that moment on, You know, I wanted to clear my name now. I was out for Christmas. I spent time with my son and my family, and it was wonderful to be free after so long. But the most important thing is we still had a year to wait before the appeal. Now, I took to the streets and demonstrated. We marched through the streets of Cardiff, a place where I live. There was about 90 of us with all placards. We want a date for the appeal now. And we just, you know, wouldn't let up until we got a date for the appeal. When the date for the appeal come through, it took them 3 minutes to clear our names. They said after hearing all the evidence before this court today, you know, that they couldn't sustain the conviction any longer, and it took them 3 minutes to find us not guilty of the crime. And that's when I started trying to help others, set up the Miscarriage of Justice organisation with one of the Birmingham Six to help other people in prison. And it was very important that I did something, because I couldn't just walk away, because I knew these people better than what I knew my family. I knew I had a close affinity with other people who were innocent, and I had to do something. And I mean, I spoke all over the country, done rallies with their families, you know, and I'm pleased to say a lot of the people I was in prison with as well, who were protesting their innocence, they too have also had their name cleared. And that was only because of this Criminal Cases Review Commission, which has been set up. Before that, we had nowhere to go. And I think we must stress that, you know, the Home Secretary rarely sent cases back to the Court of Appeal. It was down to a politician to send the cases back. It was, you know, it was inappropriate. And it was in the wake of the Birmingham 6 and Guildford 4 story that the Criminal Cases Review Commission was born. And if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be sitting here now talking to you. I would still be in prison, because there was no mechanisms for addressing these kind of things. I'd like to see a Criminal Cases Review Commission, you know, in other countries as well, you know, and maybe in Armenia too, where, you know, mistakes happen in every walk of life, all over the country, all over the world. There's some sort of injustices, and it doesn't have to be corruption, it doesn't have to be anything like that. We just make mistakes, we're only human. And I just feel if this case in Criminal Cases Review Commission was over here, you know, I'm aware of one case in my head, and we believe that he shouldn't be in prison. And if there was a body to look at this particular case, maybe, just maybe, it would give him hope for freedom, and that's why I'm here today. The consequences of wrongful imprisonment, it's not just a wrongful imprisonment and being away from your family, it's sometimes the things that you lose in prison. I mean, when I was on remand waiting for trial, I lost my wife. She went off with my friend of mine because she couldn't cope. She was only young. We lost our daughter. My daughter was only 3 months old when she died of a cot death when I was waiting for the trial. Then we got found guilty. Then during the time I was in prison, my father died when I was in prison, you know, and I had to deal with that. And, you know, bearing in mind I was 19 when all this happened, then I had to deal with the wrongful conviction. I got to be fair, inside prison, some of the prison officers believed I didn't do it. You know, there was some prison officers who were really good. There were some who were horrible to me as well. You know, there was good and bad. And the inmates were pretty good with me because I studied law. I became the prison lawyer and started helping them with their cases and stuff like that. And that was very important to me. And I suppose that's why I got on with a lot of the prisoners. Because if they had any disciplinary problems with the prison officers, they would come to me for legal advice, and I would give them free legal advice because I knew the prison law and the European law on human rights. So I was helping them too, even though I was fighting my own struggles. But when I came out, I'll give you an example of the response I had from the public. I was smoking a cigarette with my brother, looking for clothes, because I didn't have no clothes when I come out, only what I stood up in, because the clothes I had were from 1987. So they were like 11 years too old, and obviously I put on a bit of weight since then, so they didn't fit me. And this man come out from the car, stopped, screeched his car to a halt, jumped out of the car, and I thought he was going to hit me. But what I didn't realise is all he wanted to do was shake my hand, but I just seen a guy coming towards me, so I just went into fight mode, and I was going to thump him one because I thought he was going to hit me. And then he just shook his hand. He said, "I seen you on the telly last night." He said, "I'm glad to see that you're free." And the amount of people who stopped me in the street, I couldn't even go out anywhere. I couldn't go out for a pint without somebody stopping me. The old ladies would stop me in the street. I mean, it was just fantastic. I mean, the buzz was just, I can't express it, you know, it was just, I was alive, you know, I felt alive, and so many people were happy for me that I was free, you know, and there's so many people who were following my mother's campaign, and my sister who played a significant part, and all those things made a big difference to me. You know, and as I said, when I was going around helping other people, you know, that inspired me as well, because, you know, the feedback I was getting from people, you know, yeah, go and do it. Every time they see me on telly, I went on Panorama, I went on the BBC, I did on the chat shows, you know, I went on Kilroy, I did most of the TV programmes, I went on This Morning, you know, with all the big stars on it, which was, you know, quite intimidating actually. But, you know, I met some wonderful people. So, the moral of my story, as far as I'm concerned, even though I went through some hard times and I shouldn't have been wrongly convicted, if lessons can be learned by my wrongful imprisonment, not just in the UK, all over the world, lessons can be learned. What evidence not to use, what evidence you should use in a court of law, what you shouldn't use, what is unacceptable in a court of law, you know, and obviously honesty and integrity. And if my wrongful imprisonment brings about some change wherever I go, then it wouldn't have been for nothing. And that's the way I look at it. And I have a positive outlook on life, you know, even though in 2012 another tragedy hit me with my son. I lost my son in 2012 of a genetic disorder, and I turned that into a positive by setting up the foundation which we set up for my son. So you have to think positive when a negative happens, and you can change it around, and that's what I've tried to do with my life. So I do hope some positive comes out of my visit here in Armenia as well.